Should we be thinking of the card reader at this time? Because this is the second experiment. It was the first one was in 2015. This is 2019, and it's still giving us problems. Shouldn't we, since it's problematic, shouldn't we throw it away?
I know.
No, hold on. I've not landed. Shouldn't we throw it away, for instance, and then adopt a system whereby we don't have to go through card readers and go through ballot papers?
No, I don't think so. You see, there's room for improvement. If you check the performance of the card readers this time against the last time, you discover that there's some level of improvement.
Really?
Yes, there's some level of improvement. You know, because the cases of incidents were so many, were so many in the last election. I doubt if we have that same number this time around. So the card readers, gradually, we are improving on the system. So all we need to do is to focus on it and ensure that we improve on it to the point that we can begin to guarantee at least 99%, performance. Once you get to that level, because that will reduce this challenge of...
Do you think it's an old technology?
Well, I wouldn't know, but for now, that is what we have, and I think it could be improved upon. Those who are in charge of IT will be able to tell us which one is the most recent.
I mean, because it's like a device, it's like a phone, and it's physical there. And it can be attacked, can be vulnerable, just like the ballot papers are vulnerable.
Yes, it can.
So how do we graduate from vulnerability because of physical presence of any gadget
and
move to the next level where we don't have to have any physical evidence or any physical presence of a device for the elections?
Yeah, the way it will go, look at the ATM, for instance. It could be taken from you, all right? The ATM can be taken from anybody. But you cannot say that what it has come to achieve is not something we should embrace. So what we'll do is that we'll get to a point where, as you thumbprint, as you do the accreditation or whatever, we'll get to a point where you can actually do whatever e-voting, whatever you do, and that data will be sent to a data bank somewhere, that even if you choose to destroy what is here, at least the record will be somewhere. Okay. I think we could get there.
Yeah, but Mr. Kerry, I need to understand something about your initial statement about where people did not get accredited, but they had to vote. Could you be a little more specific? Because, I mean, there are several provisions of the Electoral Act. So I need to know what exactly you meant in terms of if the card reader fails to authenticate them, that they should proceed.
No, I don't understand. No, not the card reader now. All right? Already, as we speak, there are cases of card readers reading cards, and the terms were not confirmed. I don't know if you're getting what I'm saying. Because normally you will, as your card is slot inside, they will want to screen whether you are the owner of that card. Now, in some cases, there were issues with something not showing that indeed this person is, but the face is on it. And you can as well confirm it on the paper, the register. So what do you do to such a situation?
Okay, let me find out. Samson, what specifically were you referring to in terms of when people were not accredited, but they were allowed to vote?
Well, thank you very much, Chamberlain. I think it's important that, to put this out, that at the IGA Africa Watching the Vote, we deployed the parallel vote tabulation, and we deployed 3,906 observers across 774 local governments to a representative statistical sample of 1,515 polling units. And our stationary observer gathered data on setup, accreditation, and voting. And just permit me to share data on accreditation and voting. In 92% of polling units yesterday, the smart card reader was used throughout for accreditation of voters. That's 92% of polling units. Now, in 7% of polling units, the smart card reader was not used throughout for the accreditation of voters. So what it means was people were accredited without using the smart card readers. And then in less than 1% of polling units, there was no presence of a smart card reader. Now, out of this, in 69% of polling units, the smart card reader functioned properly throughout for the accreditation of voters. But in 23%, the smart card reader malfunctioned, but it was fixed because the guideline says where card reader malfunctions, it will be fixed. But in 2%, the smart card reader was later replaced because for some cases, when they malfunctioned, they were fixed. Some cases, they malfunctioned, but they were replaced. And then in 5% of polling units, the smart card reader malfunctioned, and it was not replaced. Now, if you look at the PVC, I'm talking about the accreditation of PVCs. I mean, 91% of polling units, every person's PVCs was checked by the smart card reader in 95% of polling units. Now, what I was referring to was the guidelines was very, very clear. And there are 4 specific scenarios in relation to accreditation of voters. The first is, the smart card reader performs 2 functions. One, it verifies your PVC, and then it authenticates your fingerprint. For the PVC, it verifies that that PVC is your own, you are the actual owner, and second, that the PVC is a PVC that was issued by INEC and not a cloned PVC. Now, what we saw was the card reader was used to verify the PVCs. However, they were failed authentication of fingerprints. And in that instance, the guidelines is clear that on the voters register, any voter whose fingerprint was not authenticated, their thumbprint will be captured and their phone numbers. And we did observe this in the field. But the point being made here and from our data is that in 7% of polling units, the smart card reader was not even used for accreditation. And that's the point. And that's against the guidelines for this election. In fact, if you look through, it's important to note again that the accreditation process based on the guidelines, it's meant to be electronic. That is why you have the card reader. So in cases where the card reader was not used for accreditation, the guidelines makes provisions that in those places, the election in that particular polling unit will be cancelled, or 0 votes will be entered for those particular polling unit, because you can't verify electronically whether the accreditation process was transparent. And that's the point being made. And INEC needs to audit these particular reports around accreditation that was conducted without the smart card reader. But also building on this was also the fact that yesterday, a lot of people who came out to cast their vote, some of them didn't find their names on the voters register, even though they were duly registered and they had their PVCs. Even when they used the online platform for verifying or locating their polling units, their polling unit told them the online platform showed them that their polling unit was located in a particular location. They went to that particular location and they didn't find their name on the voters register and they couldn't vote. A particular incident was in PU 024 at the Gwarimpa Model Primary School in FCT, where over 3,000 voters were in that particular center, and that's my polling unit. And I was there yesterday, and this happened before me, where close to 200 or 300 voters couldn't find their name on the voters register, and they couldn't vote because their names were not at the voters register. But if you look at their permanent voters card, it was clearly stated that they were registered in this particular polling unit. And that's very disturbing as well. These are some issues that we need to look at, and INEC needs to respond to these issues. But more importantly, from our report, there are about 17 to 18 polling units where elections didn't hold yesterday. And we believe that the elections should hold today, but INEC also needs to come out and tell the public those places where elections will be holding the next day. We've not gotten that communication from INEC, and the voters will need to be informed on whether elections will be holding today, because the guidelines was clear that the elections will hold the next day, or if it's going to be holding on a later date, INEC needs to also communicate to the public so the voters can prepare to cast their vote.